Hello, family. It's so beautiful to be with you again for the Quantum Leap Your Life Summit. I'm here with a dear sister joining me from Santa Cruz, California, Miss Lily Love. Hello.
Hi, love. Hi. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's such an honor to finally connect in this way. Now, you're someone I've really noticed and felt a resonance with for, I think, a really long time. I've just, the magic of social media and the internet, it's like feeling these little resonances. Although we've never met in person, I feel very familiar with you. I feel no doubt we've done, soul work together in other lifetimes or in other planes, I'm sure. And so it's really such an honor and a gift to share with you here. And I know you have such a beautiful vision for, let's say, heaven on earth, and creating beautiful, desire-filled, pleasurable, embodied experiences, within your own life and with all the people that you're here to support. I really see you as bringing this gift of feminine wisdom, feminine embodiment, and helping guide all the people that you support into deeper levels of self-trust, receptivity, self-love. I mean, just really this beautiful feminine essence. So I love you and honor you for this beautiful mirror that you are.
Thank you. Thank you, sister.
Yeah, so beautiful. So of course, we're getting into pleasure today for our topic of exploration here in the summit. And I'd like to begin by asking you, how do you understand this terminology, this invitation, quantum leap? And in your own path, in your own life, what has been an awakening moment, or perhaps your own quantum leap in the realm of pleasure specifically?
So juicy. Yeah, I mean, the way that I understand it, to take a quantum leap, to make a quantum leap in our lives, in our consciousness, in our frequency, is that where we can literally kind of shift realities, that we can create and command miracles and transform the old into a new way of being, a new way of seeing things, a new way of hearing, and a new way of speaking and living. We have that amazing power to, from being connected to our sovereignty, our inner authority, our connection to love, to the divine, to whatever it is that, feels resonant for you, to that core innate enoughness and innocence. We have this ability to truly change reality. And it's a great power and comes with, I think, a great responsibility, the ability to truly respond to what's happening around us and within us, from a place of truly slowing down and truly listening and truly choosing. It's really about our ability to choose how we're going to respond to life, rather than being at the whim of it. And kind of just like following down the same train tracks of our mind, and that kind of narrow perspective, or the way things have been done, or how things have been for us in the past. With a quantum leap, we truly get to, it's like shifting train tracks, and carving a new path, and finding ourselves living in literally like another reality, another dimension. For me, in terms of taking quantum leaps in the realm of pleasure, I love that question. I'm like, wow, I've never been asked it like that before. Yeah, wow, that was like going from the reality of pleasure and the way I relate to pleasure and my own, I'll take it even into the realm of sexuality and desire, and in my body and in relationship, going from a place of really that in some way that was a transaction.
Mm-hmm.
I think, learned from a young age from society and my experiences, and what I witnessed around me, how adults behaved around this kind of energy, that it was something that you used to get something. And yes, it could feel good, but yeah, there was this kind of like other energy around it, and it had so many ties into my self-worth, as a feminine being, as a woman, as a girl, of like, well, I have this thing that is valuable that I can share, and then you give me this other thing that is valuable, like love, or what I hope is love, acceptance, validation, security, safety, some kind of, and it's like an outsourcing of my power to be able to feel safe in some way, or accepted in some way. So shifting from that, taking a quantum leap from that kind of reality into a whole other realm of pleasure as medicine, and my pleasure and my sexual energy and my beingness, like my life force, as this healing tool. Like to go from like, even the reality of like, oh, sex is, a fun, pleasurable thing to experience, and then into like, sex and pleasure and that powerful life creating energy is actually something that is a powerful healing modality. That it has the power, when we tap into that, to, in ourselves and how we use that in relationship, to truly awaken and bring back wholeness. It's like shining a light into the dark places, into where the shame lives, into the traumas, into the outdated belief systems. It's like, that was an amazing shift to be like, oh wow, this energy is creative energy, it's life-giving energy, and it's healing energy, and I can use it for that purpose. And that was mind-blowing, and that was a quantum leap for me, for sure.
Sounds beautiful. Sounds like you're talking, alluding to some of my favorite sex magic and alchemical healing kind of, I've been reading a lot of rereading, shall we say, a lot of the Magdalene mysteries and Magdalene manuscripts, and just, it's coming up again, I think, big time on the collective consciousness, this reorientation to the sacredness of all things, our bodies being first and foremost, essential to that equation. How do we restore sacredness in our relationship to Mother Earth, to the planet, to the environment, to each other, to ourselves, etc.? It starts with the sacredness and reverence, which I hear you allude to so beautifully, the sacredness of like my own being, and how do I treat myself? How do I honor myself? How do I honor my energy, my most precious, invaluable, priceless even resource, my energy, my life force, my aliveness? And I really resonate deeply with this reorientation out of transactionality, and a reorientation to, wait a minute, all of my power is sourced from within. I'm not giving my power away or externalizing my value in any of these other old, survival mechanisms. And this is where it starts. It starts with me. But when did that wake-up call happen for you? I know that's probably a long story, I'm sure, but I'm really curious. I'm always interested to know, like, was there one significant awakening moment where you'd had a wake-up call? Maybe in a moment of knowing, I can't do this anymore. This is not the way. I have to do something else.
Yeah, there were definitely like, consecutive kind of moments over time. But it wasn't really until I hit a point that my life was just a complete mess. It felt like rock bottom. My mom had passed away it was 8 years ago now. So it was about 2 years until kind of like I hit this point of like, I can't live this way anymore. And there was a beautiful man that came into my life, and we ended up having a 6-year relationship, who was an angel and a catalyst for me and a mirror to, you know, I knew that things had to change. I was starting to like seek real support. But he kind of mirrored to me and he was like, if you want to have the kind of relationship that you want to have and that you're capable of having with yourself, let alone me or somebody else, then like you have to truly like face this. And so, but it was me that said yes. You know, I could have run away from that. And I said yes with all of my resistance and went through all of the process with all of my resistance, and honestly just like desperately dove into anything and everything that I could that would support me, whether that was plant medicine and breath work or group therapy or 12-step programs or, you know, completely getting sober off alcohol and anything, you know. Yeah, it was just like a deep, deep, deep dive, and learning how to truly be present with all of the stuff that I had suppressed. And yeah, there was a moment I was in a breathwork class that all of this kind of rage and deep grief and self-loathing was coming up. And I was like, oh, what am I supposed to do with this? Like, it's too much. And I was like, there was a voice like, just keep breathing. The facilitator said, just keep breathing. Like, okay, there must be something on the other side of this. Like, there's got to be something. There's got to be something more to this life. And through that, keep breathing. And being present with like breathing into, it's like embracing all of that darkness and that self-loathing. This kind of light started to come in at the end of the tunnel, and it said compassion. Compassion. And it was like, okay, well, I mean, I know how to be compassionate with others. Like, I'm really good at being there for others. That's what I've done my whole life. I don't know how to do that for myself. And it was like, okay, I don't know, but I have a key now. Now I get to just move towards learning how to do that for myself, how to truly be, not just be compassionate, but be compassion in my own heart, to actually be able to generate that great capacity that the frequency of the heart has, to generate self-compassion when we're in this like depth of despair or shame or whatever it is, that we can actually like be with it and turn something around and open this great like vessel, which really is like, for me, like the heart is like the doorway to our higher self, to source, to love, and allow that to flow through us and become us, because that's what we really are.
Yes, I love the way you described that so beautifully. I really feel it's funny. It's like, oh yeah, I'm going to remember what I'm actually made of. It's funny. Oh, so, and I so resonate. We must have more in common than I knew about everything you mentioned. I'm like, oh, interesting. Okay. And I really feel what you're speaking to around how can I be compassionate with myself, but actually being it involves, you know, changing a lot of actions and behaviors, right? Like the being and tuning in with that essence, remembering your original blueprint, remembering your wholeness, you know, with great integrity and with so much self-love and compassion requires changing behavior and actions, right? To really reclaim this power that you've maybe given away to people or images or anything outside of yourself. And what were, if you could recall, what were some of the, key realignments, actions that were really helpful for you around that time, maybe even more in the beginning where you were like learning how to generate more of this self-compassion and self-love and self-empowerment?
Yeah, and making those like real changes are so uncomfortable.
So awkward, so weird, yes.
So awkward, uncomfortable. And yeah, for me, I mean, a big one was around communication, like around learning nonviolent communication. And we think of like that term, like nonviolent, like violence is something that's really violent, right? But violence is actually anything that is not coming from a place of peace. And we have that all the time in our communications, with like resentment or blame or, judgment. And blame, I love Brene Brown really says that blame is just a way to disperse pain. It's like, I don't want to feel this pain, so I'm throwing it back over here onto you. And that was a huge piece for me, to be able to receive feedback from others, receive feedback from my partner, from loved ones that said, hey, when you did this, or when you said this, or when you do that, it hurts me, like it has an impact. And I would, at first, like just kind of react, because all I would hear is you're bad, you're wrong. And I had to do deep work to be able to breathe. So breath is really the first key. But and the last key, to be in that moment and breathe into those feelings of shame and like, I'm wrong, I'm bad, and I'm being criticized. And then learn to truly listen beyond that, and then to truly, reflect what I'm hearing and get the impact, but not make myself wrong, and to learn how to communicate in return in ways that I was honoring somebody else's experience, and to learn how to communicate my own needs and my own boundaries. And communicate when somebody was having an impact on me, not from a place of shaming and criticizing and blaming and judgment, but from that place of compassion, of not making someone wrong, but saying, hey, yeah, this has an impact on me. So yeah, getting support around communication tools and study, around communication was a big thing that I had to do.
Do you know what I hear when you're speaking? I'm not sure if you're alluding to this at all, but what immediately came up for me is, and I'm sensitive to how, maybe this isn't an everyday occurrence for most people, and I'm curious about how to maybe make an invitation for this. I don't know. So I'll just go into it. What I heard you speaking to, in my experience, what I relate it to is the experience of making hundreds of amends when I was in 12-step recovery for alcohol and drugs. And I had probably hundreds and hundreds of amends with people that would come up in 12-step work who I had resentment against, who I felt had wronged me, who I felt did all the wounding, all over it, operating from all the different wounded aspects of self, operating from my abandoned inner child self, in most cases, in most moments of my life at that point. And then going on the journey of seeing how all of the people that I had felt resentment against or had been blaming for some element of pain in my life, I got to see in most cases how I was, actually I was the one that created that whole identity for them, and in a way had given all my power to them to continue feeling pain, to continue validating my suffering, to continue validating this identity of an abandoned victim, really, that then disempowered me from showing up in all the ways I really wanted to be showing up in my life, you know, and prevented me from having true intimacy, true connection, and all the things that are implicit in that. And so then eventually, this isn't like an overnight process. This happened over years. But the experience of going through the awkwardness, the shame, the terror at times, where I would have literal somatic, like I'd be like shaking with nervousness about to speak to someone I hadn't seen in like 5 years, because I knew that it was really life or death for me at that point, that I needed to free myself of this resentment that was gonna, or anger or grief that was literally gonna kill me spiritually, emotionally, and then physically if I didn't do something about it. And so facing these people, which really just represented to me, you know, the wounded aspects of myself I wasn't willing to fully look at and love, was like, wow, those were quantum leaps for me at that time. Quantum leaps in seeing how the story I had about how the world worked and about how people were out to get me and how I was a victim, pretty much every time was wrong. Pretty much every time something else, pretty much every single time I had an idea of what someone was going to think or reflect back to me, or how someone was going to hate me or be like, I don't want to talk to you. Every single time they'd be like, what do you see things like that? What? You see reality that way? What?
Yeah.
And you just like, and the most common story I would have was making up a story that people hated me, and I was so embarrassed because I had blacked out or, you know, had been embarrassing, and then I just cut people out of my life, like, bye, okay, never see you again, that never happened again, like, bye. And then I'm still holding on to a resentment like 10 years later. I would call them up to be like, I'm sorry for that time I, you know, threw up all over your car, and then, you know, made out with your boyfriend, and or whatever else I did. And then I would think that they would hate me. They would just hate me. They didn't want to talk to me. The self-loathing, just like self-pity, so much self-pity, you know, that allowed me to be a victim in my life. And then I'd call them up and I'd be like, what happened to you? Like, you were a great friend. You just disappeared. You just checked out. I always wondered what happened. I mean, I missed you.
Crazy.
What happened, you know? And so that was, there's more I could say about that, but when I heard you reflect about communication and about asking people for feedback and about right sizing your idea of yourself in reality, that to me feels like a resonance in, you know, being willing to face the things that make you really uncomfortable, that are often represented by relationships and particular people in your life, through the initiation of, it's not just asking for apologizing or asking for forgiveness. It's like taking full responsibility for, you know, how you behaved and whatever it is that you are needing to clear with someone, just bringing that up in a really clear way, very clear communication without any like hidden agendas or needing to be validated. It's just the ultimate vulnerability that I wish I could gift this experience to everybody. Like, I'm like, could everybody somehow do this, please?
Can you imagine? And we can do this.
Yeah.
Create a world where we all like came to each other and owned like our deepest shame and our impact and like all the uncomfortableness and the vulnerability of that, and just said like, hey, I just want to own that, like, I did this and it had an impact, and I'm sorry, and I'm here, and I want to do better. Like, if we all did that, yeah, it's so vulnerable and so uncomfortable and so against, like, you know, the wounded ego, the wounded part of us that wants to be right about our wound and our story, like our victimness. Yeah, I remember for years in that relationship with my former partner, who was this great, you know, angel and catalyst for me. As I was, you know, kind of like going along and getting more and more capacity to hold myself and what was coming up, you know, I had great triggers around abandonment. Like, if his tone of voice was like a little frustrated, or if he like moved away from me an inch or something, like,
Yes.
oh my God, the world is ending. You don't love me anymore, kind of thing. And I got to this place to be able to say like, wow, notice like that I was thinking that he was moving away from me, or he was angry at me. That was a big trigger. Like, you're angry at me. Oh, that's scary. And I got to this place to be able to say, like, breathe into that part of me that was scared, that little girl. And instead of just making it true and reacting from that, say, hey, so I'm having this story right now, or this experience right now, and I just want to check if it's true for you, if it's going on for you. And I would share it, and he'd be like, no, sweetie, like,
Mm-hmm.
or I'm in my own process, or, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like, and
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, whoa, like,
Mm-hmm.
literally that was reality. That was, I was sure that was happening.
Mm-hmm.
And to just like start to let that that fade and see a whole new reality was
Mm-hmm.
amazing.
It's so courageous. It's so courageous. What you just described is one of the most courageous actions I could even imagine in creating intimacy and authentic connection and all of our relationships, and honoring self and becoming more attuned with your desires, with your, you know, with your true essence, and not operating unconsciously with, you know, not operating unconsciously from the perspective of the wounded self and all the different iterations of that self. Because it might be that you have for me at least, I know I have like all these different aspects. It's like the kid that felt abandoned from the moment you were born, and the time you were 4 years old and this happened, and your dad didn't pay attention to you when you were 3, and like there's all these different memories that occur usually. I mean, in my experience, I think this is true for most too. It's like between the ages of 0 and 7, and maybe some in teenage years too, and they set up these moments in which we activate these core wounded identities. They can set the stage for these unconscious patterns that then, you know, can run our whole lives until we, you know, maybe feel enough pain to want to interrupt them and reframe them, and but really bringing light to them, you know, as you've just clearly demonstrated. It's like honoring self. Okay, I'm seeing things like this, having the observance, you know,
Mm-hmm.
not identifying with it, not taking it personally immediately, being like, wait a minute, I don't know if that's real or not, because it really doesn't feel good. I wonder
Mm-hmm.
if this is what's actually happening for the other person. And then, even at the risk, the supposed risk, right, according to the ego, of being
Mm-hmm.
rejected, of being betrayed, of being abandoned, it's like, even with all that at stake, you hold yourself with so much love, with so much compassion, with so much support, that it doesn't matter, because what matters is you get to the truth. And that's the highest, you know, that's the highest value in this moment. And then you invite someone else to create that truth with you, unattached from what their answer may be. It's like so brave, so courageous, so much surrender into the unknown in that, right? But then again and again, isn't it always the same case, for me at least too, where people are like, that wasn't what was happening at all. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I love you.
Yeah. Yeah, that willingness to like really like stop and slow down
Mm-hmm.
and challenge the thing that we think is reality, and just like open a sliver of other possibility of like, what else might be possibly going on here? What else might be possible? Is it possible that maybe this like painful story reality that I've been living is just not really happening anymore?
Mm. Mm. I love that question. It opens up so much space. That's been a big
Mm-hmm.
theme of the summit, has been just spaciousness, right? That so much of our natural essence, our natural state of being maybe is to be in quantum leaps all the time, is to be in alignment with our purpose, is to be in alignment with our desires and embodiment of our heart and our deepest love, you know, and it's our natural state when we create the spaciousness to actually feel ourselves, right? Creating
Yeah.
space. So I hear you reflecting that, like creating openings, creating more spaciousness, especially in
Right.
relationships, for more truth and more natural alignment to be revealed and embodied.
Right. Curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
Curiosity is like so opening. I think most of like the disconnections and disharmonies, I think so much of it is based on this kind of misinterpretation. this projection of our old wounded kind of story and reality. Even like as simple as I have a client who messaged me the other day. She's starting to kind of like date and you know, has been doing all of this work to call in, attract men who are emotionally available. And she, you know, went on one date with a guy, and she felt like they had a really great connection. He was like, I really want to see you again. They've been texting. He messaged her and said, when can I see you this week? She said, Wednesday. He said, okay, yeah, I think Wednesday night could work. And then she didn't hear from him. She's texting me Wednesday night. She's like, and she's like, okay, I spoke to some friends, and yeah, they said, you know, like, he's not worth it. Like, I'm not even going to bother with him. Like, he, what was it? Like, he, can't remember the word she used, but it was like, you know, like, he kind of like shunned me, so I'm gonna shun him, kind of thing.
He ghosted her.
Yeah, ghosted. Yeah. I don't know the terms. These young kids dating terms. Yeah, so he ghosted me, so I'm gonna ghost him, you know. And I was like, who are you choosing to be in the world? What do you stand for? What are your values? Because you can react like that and just basically, because you think he did something to you, then you'll just do that to him. Like, then what are you standing for? And it's quite possible that something happened and he got busy, he had a family thing, like, who knows? Like, just be open to the possibility that this is not about you getting ghosted. Like, which, you know, just says right there to your wound, like, see, all men are blah, blah, blah. There's no hope for me, you know? And so I was like, be curious and just express your feelings to him and be curious, you know, own your feelings, not put them on. Like, I want to own that I feel a little hurt or disappointed. And I want to be curious about, you know, what's going on for you, or if you're still interested in seeing me. And he came back and he was like, what? Oh, no, we didn't actually confirm on Wednesday, and I got so busy and a family thing came up, and I'm sorry, and I really want to see you, and I'm so grateful for you communicating like your truth so vulnerably to me. Like, can I see, you know? And she's like, what? And I was like, imagine if you'd listened to that voice, or to your friends that just say like, oh, he's not worth it. Like, like there's a whole realm here to discover, instead of just shutting the door and becoming what, you know, the other person did, what we think they did.
Yep, seeing the world through your chosen glasses. And I love that example of like, let me go validate my projection with these other people that are going to also respond with their own wounded projection.
Like, please do not ask your friends for guy advice who have all the same, you know,
who have the trauma bond. That's right.
Yeah, the trauma bond. And like, again, like, the communication skills is, you know, emotional intelligence and the communication skills, I think, are two huge pieces that we're so underdeveloped in this, in our world, in this culture. Yeah, and I think that question of just, Who am I choosing to be? Like, what are my values? Like, what do I stand for? And, you know, I said, it's totally likely, like you said, the risk is that he'll ghost you again, or he'll come back and say, yeah, like, not really into you. And then you get to hold yourself and grieve and come back into your heart and who am I being? And great, that was a no, so that there's a yes, there's a door opening for me that is in alignment with who I say I am being.
So powerful. This is our power. This is our power to choose who we are being in every moment, regardless of what life is showing us, which I believe is always really perfect and is always an opportunity for us to look at, okay, what is all the input coming in here? What is this reflecting to me? Because it's really a reflection of whatever I'm putting out, you know? So the thing that comes to mind, as was the case for a lot of my life, is like, I don't really feel like I have great intimacy. I don't really feel like I can show up authentically. I don't really know what my purpose is. I felt like I was just hiding behind so many masks for so long, and it was so chaotic and exhausting and just confusing. And yet I was never a victim to that. I can see in hindsight how I thought I was a victim during those moments, but my outside world was simply reflecting to me what I thought I deserved and what I was willing to, you know, activate and create. Like, what was I initiating? Of course, that's all the evidence I was seeing based on how I was being, how I was choosing to be, even if it was unconsciously in survival or, you know, with a total attachment to just affirming my stories that I had such a, you know, my stories that I wore like a security blanket, because then at least I knew who I was, you know, and oh, so it's just a beautiful invitation for everybody listening to just, if anything has landed or felt even triggering or maybe a little emotional thus far in this conversation, how is it a beautiful opportunity to breathe into whatever sensation is coming up, whatever feeling is coming up, and maybe try on that question that you so beautifully asked, you know, who am I being? How am I choosing to be? How am I showing up? How am I, you know, choosing to meet life in this moment? What is it that I value? That's such a powerful question. What do I really value? What's important to me in life? And how am I embodying those values? You know, these are really powerful questions. Like, wait a minute, do I know what I value? Do I know what I want? Or am I just out there expecting life to just kind of hit me with whatever, and I'm just taking whatever I can get? You know, it's like a very different orientation versus that. And wait a minute, this is what I value. This is what I desire. This is what I deserve. This is what I allow.
Yeah. And I think it's just so important to, you know, remember and remind ourselves along the way that there's no shame in where we are at. We're always, I'm pretty sure we're always gonna have some level of these stories and feelings arising in us, you know, and it gets easier in a way because we just get better at being able to hold it and observe it and breathe with it and bring compassion to it and love it and then take those quantum leaps.
So you gave us so many beautiful points of inquiry, which really imply new action and imply embodiment of new ways of being, you know, with these different questions of, in any moment, especially in vulnerable or intimate moments or any relationship, having more curiosity, you know, communicating that, owning your feelings, not making anybody, you know, responsible for your emotions. No one makes you feel any kind of way. This is like a blind spot I see in a lot of languaging that we're very conditioned to use, that would have you say, like, this makes me feel, you make me feel, you made me feel this way. And, you know, can you take full responsibility for the fact that your feelings are being generated from within your own being, and that you actually get to choose how it is that you would like to respond to life and feel about life? And, you know, how would you like to direct your energy, right? Energy in motion, emotion. There's a slight distinction between emotions and the feelings, but it's like, and to simplify, it's like you can choose, you know, even if it feels like an old story would be that, well, that made me feel, you made me feel this way when you know, didn't pay attention to me. You made me feel alone or abandoned or whatever it is. And how would it feel different to say, when I noticed you do this, or when I noticed, this was happening, I felt in my body a tightness around my heart. I felt a shortness of breath. I felt nervousness. I felt a memory of childhood. This requires a relationship with oneself to be able to feel what's happening here, and then communicating that without any projection, that someone else made that happen. This is all happening within your own system. You are creating it, and then taking that responsibility to say, this is what I experienced. And then inviting someone with the curiosity, with the openness, right? With a co-creative invitation to ask them, what's your experience in this moment? How are you experiencing reality right now? How are you processing this? Is any of what I just shared true for you as well? Or how are you feeling right now? Such a powerful invitation. And really in that invitation, we're saying, I don't really know what's happening or what the right thing is or what the truth is. Let's create that together. Let's come into conscious agreement and co-creation about what we would like to experience together, because we can create whatever we want. So could you imagine if we were all kind of taught those little inquiries when we were born?
And the way that we then respond to each other and respond to ourselves when somebody shares like, oh wow, like when you did that, I'm having these feelings of like anxiety come up. And instead of being like, I didn't do that, we just go like, oh sweetie, like it's okay, you're safe. I'm here. I'm sorry you're feeling that.
That's life-changing. That can be so life-changing. There's what is also implicit here is the distinction between hearing, like you can hear someone say something and like you can hear them and be like, okay, I heard that, and listening, like really listening without hearing and then planning while you're hearing to like what it is you're going to respond with, like immediately. It's like really listening and taking someone fully in, which might mean not saying anything in response, which might mean just holding such a presence because whatever that person is sharing just wants to be seen and, bared witness to. And that might be a life-changing healing that occurs that doesn't even need a response, that doesn't even need you to fix anything or change anything or do anything differently. It's like
just breathing, just presence with somebody, just breathing with them is really truly listening.
That used to be so hard for me because as a recovering people pleaser and caretaker of everyone else, it's like I was so conditioned for so long. I know, I see you. I was so conditioned to like fix it. I couldn't even really listen to people. And then because I'm already and I'm psychically intuiting how I can help them and what they need and what they want me to say to feel better and blah, 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 taking all their emotions on. And it was so interesting looking back. It's like, all I wanted was loving connection. All I wanted was true love. But as long as I was oriented in this way of actually being so self-absorbed with how am I going to fix it? How am I going to be enough? How am I going to be what they need to feel better? It's like I was never actually available to truly connect in the way that I wanted. And that was the paradox that, frankly, drove me insane to the point of like, this is just not going to work ever. This never was designed to work. And I know so many people are awakening out of that in this moment. They're awakening out of that, like, wait a minute, I have my own desires I want to fulfill. There's something about this heart. I got to listen. How do I start listening? How do I start feeling what I feel like, And the last thing I'd like to ask you is if you have any, just anything else to share, any other like embodiment practice that comes to mind, maybe about this. Exactly that, this question of how can I cultivate more presence with my being, and how can I cultivate more presence with my own heart? How can I tune in with my own energy? And how is pleasure and creating more pleasurable experiences a gateway to exactly that?
So many different practices just came into my head. We got to do them all.
Like we have a retreat for that.
As I mentioned, like breath is just so powerful. It's like the most simple thing that we have available to us at all times. And, our mind likes to make things more complicated, and be like, well, breath, like, how can that? But it's so, so powerful to just like, you can do it right now. Put your hands on your heart or anywhere in your body that might be kind of like calling your attention, tight, tense. And you can just breathe into your hand through your nose. And then exhale out your mouth like you're fogging up a window. Breathe in through your nose into that area on your body with your hand. Exhale powerfully out your mouth. And just let any tension start to relax anywhere you're holding in your jaw or your belly relax. And just notice how every inhale you're expanding and receiving and taking in more life. And every exhale you're letting go. You can even imagine, with the power of your imagination that our inner child gives us, that as you inhale, you're receiving in beautiful pink light or purple or green. And every exhale, you can even imagine, and you can even use your hands to push out any cloudiness, any darkness, anything that's not serving. And now we're just kind of going to reverse it, and we're actually going to inhale the pain or the sadness or the shame. Inhale it, embrace it into you. And just send that message to that pain and feel where it lives in your body. I'm here with you. I'm present with you. I have space for you. I love you. Even with any of my resistance or fear of you, I'm learning to love and accept you right now. Inhaling powerfully through the nose. Exhaling through the mouth. And then to just bring in a little bit more pleasure as you continue to breathe. Bring your fingertips like feather light touch, sweeping open your heart like you're moving a curtain aside. Breathing all the way into the center of your chest. And with this really gentle feather light touch, start to caress your skin anywhere that feels good. You can caress the inside of your wrists. Find as you breathe how sweet it feels to caress these parts of your body. Finding the places that kind of tickle. Caressing the back of your neck, the back of your heart if you can reach. Caressing your jaw, feather light touch. You're bringing so much love and tenderness into your fingertips. Continuing to breathe in whatever feelings you have, whether you're feeling like awkward and uncomfortable to caress yourself, you're feeling like I don't love myself, so this is really painful. Breathing that in. I'm here with you. I'm present with you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me for where I've judged you. You're so worthy of this love and tenderness. And just allowing yourself, giving yourself permission to experience some pleasure, experience some joy, experience some vitality, caressing all the way down your legs, your belly. I'm safe. It's safe for me to be intimate with me. It's safe for me to let pleasure in. It's safe for me to let it be good. And you can gently bring one hand to your lower belly and one to your heart and just ground with your palms. Breathing into your lower hand and up into your heart. And then your heart all the way back down to your lower belly, your womb space, your sex center. Breathing up into your heart. And back down. And no matter what you feel, just know that this is a beginning, and it's a practice.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that beautiful invitation with us. And I feel like I could just do that for hours.
Yeah, we need it. We need that kind of like nourishment, filling ourselves up, giving ourselves a hug, that like self-talk of just like, I'm here with you, like I've got you, I'm learning to love you.
Wow. Yeah. And as you mentioned, everyone will have this practice, you'll have a different orientation to it, a different experience, and your experience is perfect no matter where you are and what you're feeling as you go through this practice. It's perfect, and there's just infinite more love to expand into, to receive from yourself, and as you practice receiving from yourself and reveling in the love that you are yourself, you will see more ease in which love is coming into your life, reflected in the outside world. You'll see more love. You'll see more of an ease with receiving all that life is giving to you always, so starting here is so powerful, and really practicing being with yourself, being with the energies and emotions that come up, and holding yourself through that is building such beautiful resilience and magnetism, and just so beautiful. I love it. Oh, Miss Lily, you're such a divine goddess. Thank you so much for being with us. Oh, so grateful. This is just the beginning of many, many more co-creations, I sense, and I'm very excited for all of that to flow. And for everybody who's like in love with you now, how can they play with you, and what are any inspired invitations you have to welcome anyone into?
Thank you, sister. Thanks for creating these platforms for us to be able to have these conversations, bring it all to light. You can check out my website, lilyclairelove.com, and contact me there, or find me on Facebook. I have some retreats coming up, one in Mexico in May. Yeah, and it's a trio of facilitators, myself doing kind of like the sacred sexuality, feminine embodiment work. It's a women's only retreat. And then we have a powerful Kundalini yoga teacher who's going to be taking us through powerful like mantra Kundalini yoga every day for 7 days. And then we have Alexander Cousins, who leads Living Mucus Free, and she does this powerful cellular detoxification, which is just completely like revolutionized my own health and life. It takes you into powerful quantum leaps for sure. Yes. So yeah, that's happening in May, and then a couple of other retreats in Ibiza, but we just filled up in June. And then the next one is Embodied Feminine Leadership in Hawaii in October. And then, I have an online course, and you're feel free to just like reach out and inquire about anything.
Oh, beautiful. Oh, so much fun. I love all the retreats. It's so much fun. I want to go do Kundalini yoga every day. And
so good.
Are you going to be in Tulum?
We're not in Tulum. We're in a different part that I don't know how to pronounce.
Oh, Mexico is so glorious. What a magical place. Oh, that sounds so fun. Beautiful, my love. I can't wait for everybody to continue connecting and playing with you and just cross-pollinating. And I'm so grateful to share with you. Thank you for all the light, the lightness of being that you bring, that you are, that you invite others into. Thank you. Thank you. Love you so much.
Thank you.
Yay. See you all tomorrow, family. Thank you for joining us. See you in the group and see you soon.